Hey, you busy bees. Today we are back with another chapter in our My Weird School series, Book 3, Mrs. Roopy is Loopy by Dan Gutman. Before we get into our chapter of the day, we're going to get into our riddle of the day. Our riddle of the day is, what kind of shoes do frogs like? Okay, and I'll tell you again. What kind of shoes do frogs like? All right. So let's pop open the book and fly through this adventure together. Yesterday, we read a chapter where the students actually got to meet Mrs. Roopy, and they even learned about her hero. Do you remember what her hero's name was? If you said Melvin Dewey, you are correct. And he was her hero because Melvin Dewey invented a system on how to be able to find a book faster. So when you walk into a library, right, you go and see and you pick out a library book. But if you look at the edge of the library book, it has a number. Sometimes it may have a letter, but more than likely it has a number. That's what Melvin Dewey did. He invented a system on where certain books go with certain numbers so that librarians, when they're putting their books up, it's faster and more easier. And then also for us who go and get the books, it's more helpful for us because we could go to the librarian and ask them, where's a Dan Gutman book? And they can say, oh, it's in the area 595, and there's signs. There are signs in the library on where to find it. So it's a really good system that he invented. And it's still used today. I'm sure that happened very long ago and it's still used today. All right. Chapter 6, Johnny Applesauce. When we came into the library the next time, a guy with a long beard came down the ladder from the treehouse wearing blue jean overalls. He was carrying a shovel and a big sack. He had no shoes on his feet, but he was wearing a pot on his head. He looked funny, and he looked a lot like Mrs. Roopy to me. Mrs. Roopy, why are you wearing a pot on your head? I asked. Roopy, the guy said in a funny voice. You youngins must be confusing me with some other feller. My name is Johnny Appleseed. It's the year 1800. I travel from town to town planting apple trees most everywhere I wander. You are not Johnny Appleseed, Andrea called out. You're Mrs. Roopy. Ain't never heard of no Roopy, the guy said, making his forehead all wrinkly. Appleseed's the name. Planting apple trees is my game. This here's a darn big country, and I reckon folks are gonna need a heap of apples. No matter what we said, we couldn't convince the bearded guy with the pot on his head that he wasn't Johnny Appleseed. He read us a story about Johnny Appleseed and told us lots of stuff about apples. Did you know that folks have been here eating apples for thousands of years? Johnny Appleseed told us. They should chew faster, I said, and everybody laughed. Then Johnny Appleseed took us outside and helped us plant a real apple tree near the playground. Before we went back into school, we had apples for snack. I can understand why he planted all those apple trees. I can understand why he dressed funny. But what I don't understand is why he wore a pot on his head. That Johnny Applesauce guy was weird. When we got back to class, I told Miss Daisy all about what happened during library period. Do you still think books are boring, AJ? She asked me. Yes, I said. And that is the end of our chapter for today. Do you think Mrs. Roopy is possibly dressing up as these characters to keep the children engaged, to make library more interesting, and also to teach them about important people in our lives? That is something to think about. All right. So now we're going to get into the answer to our riddle for the day. Our riddle for the day was, what kind of shoes do frogs like? And the answer is, drum roll please, open-toed shoes. Do you get it? Open-toed shoes. So we wear open-toe shoes where a little bit of our toes show whenever we put the shoe on. But what they wear is open-toed toad shoes. If you like this video, give it a like. And if you'd like to follow along for more adventures, hit that subscribe button. And I will see you on the next one.